The Greek god of the underworld was Hades. He is seen here in an image that was taken from a Greek vase. His symbol was a huge cow horn that was filled with grains and fruits. It was called a cornucopia, or horn of plenty. The name for a horn, cornu, was probably the source for the word we use to represent maize. That is, cornu was changed to simply corn. The corn cob was called corn or cornu because it had the shape of a cow's horn. Here is a Minoan merchant and an ocean-going ship circa 1500 BC. This map shows the principal routes that Bronze Age traders used to transport native copper from out of the Great Lakes region. They also brought corn from the same area. Copper traders brought ingots across the North Atlantic to the British Isles, Spain, the Mediterranean, and on to the Middle East. These are a pair of Cretan corncob rings that were cast from gold in about 2000 BC. They are evidence of the great wealth that was obtained from the corn trade. Corn was the principal food of the lower classes, the merchants, travelers, laborers, slaves, and soldiers. These were the very people upon whose bare backs civilization arose from the earth. Native Americans carved the faces of Mediterranean sailors in clay and stone. These illustrations compare the faces of Old World travelers with the corresponding Native American artifacts that have been found in archaeological sites in Mexico, Guatemala, and Peru. These represent just a few of the hundreds of artifacts that the ancient travelers left behind in the Americas. Men wearing fish costumes represent ocean travelers from beneath the seas. They were called mermen or seamen. One merchant on the left carries a corn pod and a seed bag. These symbols reveal the role of merchants in dispersing maize all across the world between 5000 and 1000 BC. The earliest destination for New World copper and corn was the Middle East. Here we see a genie holding a corn cob. This Assyrian artifact dates to about 900 BC. Most doctrinaire scholars identify the seed pod as a pine cone. However, the artistic and agricultural context of the Assyrian civilization suggests that the genie is actually holding a cob of maize. Here is another example. Here is another one. My associate, Mark McInerney, says that the Assyrians were famous for growing huge supplies of grain, not for planting pine trees. Indeed, most of the items that we see in the hands of genies look more like corn cobs than they do pine cones. Here is a sample of corn cobs from ancient India, Mexico, Peru, and modern America, and they have a similar appearance to the Assyrian corn cobs. This illustration is from a Babylonian stone tablet. It shows two riders on horseback moving alongside parallel corn rows. The height of corn is exactly the same that the Spaniards reported in Peru, and this artifact dates to about 1000 BC. Here is a comparison of the native Peruvian and Babylonian corn rows. The genie on the left is from a stone slab in the British Museum. The birdman on the right was sold at Sotheby's auction house in London. They date to a period from about 700 to 900 BC. In the middle is an example of the corn plant from another Babylonian tablet. Notice they are all very similar. Here is an example of the Babylonian tree of life. It is a tree of corn cobs. Each branch terminates in an ear of maize. Here's another tablet from Babylon, and it shows a farm scene featuring a corn row and a litter of pigs. Here's a colored image of the Babylonian corn row. This is a cylinder seal showing a man with two corn plants. The artifact is at the Louvre Museum in Paris. It was found at the archaeological site of Uruk in Iraq. The artifact dates to about 3000 BC. This is the Warka vase from the Baghdad Museum. It dates to about 3300 BC. We see along the lower register a row of corn plants with irrigation ditches running between them. The plant can be identified as maize because of the huge size of cobs, the waffle pattern on the cobs, and the very large leaves and stalks. This is Stonehenge. It is located about 150 miles southwest of London. The Bronze Age structure dates to the same span of time that merchants were bringing copper to the British Isles. The first stones were laid in about 3000 BC, or right about at the dawn of Egyptian civilization. This is the Gunnar map of about 500 BC. It is one of several maps that predate the Phoenician cartography of Marinus and the Roman cartography of Ptolemy. This map has the Gulf of Mexico labeled as the Caspian Sea. A team of Greek explorers in about 500 BC issued a report affirming that this was true. This is Aristophanes Map of about 300 BC. It has the southern continent indicated as the Alter Orbis, meaning the other world. This is an early name for South America, and it's the same name that Columbus used for South America. This is a Roman map by Macrobius circa 440 AD. It is presently at the Huntington Library in San Marino, California. The map is a very accurate Florida and Gulf of Mexico. Florida was the Roman goddess of springtime. This is an enlargement of the Macrobius map showing the Florida Peninsula and the Gulf of Mexico. The Portuguese had a map of the same area called Antilia, or the Antilles, in 1436. So why does Columbus get credit for discovering lands that were already known to the Romans and the Portuguese? Let's go to Rome. Time detectives in Italy were asked to find evidence of Egyptian corn during the era of the Roman Empire. It was said that Egypt was, quote, the breadbasket of the Roman Empire. So it stands to reason that if there was maize in Egypt, then we might expect to find evidence of that grain growing in the artifacts of ancient Italy. And this is a section of the Palestrina mural. It shows an alligator and a hippopotamus in a marshy area. The Villa Palestrina is located southeast of Rome, and this mural is dated to the 1st century AD. Names for maize in Rome included Roman corn, polenta, and pulse. The words polenta and pulse are both derivatives from the words used for a pole mill. The pole was used to crush the corn into mush prior to baking it as an ash cake or a griddle cake. Most of the maize in Rome was imported in grain bags or gunny sacks from Egypt, Tunisia, and Turkey. The upper class regarded the pulse or cornmeal as barbaric. They preferred the finer pastries that bakers made from wheat, leavening, butter, and honey. Thus, we don't see very many corn plants shown in Roman art. Wheat is a small grain that grows in short plants that are about waist high. Fibers sticking out from the seeds along the sides are referred to as the beard. Roman coins feature images of wheat and barley. Note the beard fibers that typically stick out from the sides. An ivory carving at the Archbishop's Palace at Ravenna, near Rome, includes this scene from the biblical story of Joseph and the starving Jews. The carving is dated to the 5th century AD. We see the grain having the shape of corn cobs in the husk. A photograph of a corn cob in the husk is shown on the right. Obviously, the grain in this 5th century Roman carving is not wheat. It is equally evident that the artist knew that seed corn, or maize, was stored in the husk. A fertility statue from Tunis appears to be holding an ear of corn, although some writers have identified this as an ear of wheat. It would seem far too large for wheat. Also, the waffle pattern on the cob was typically used to represent corn, as were the hairs on the top of the cob. This is an advertising sign from a bakery near Rome. It dates to the 1st century. A corn plant accompanies the menu item for polenta. An enlargement of the baker's sign is compared to modern maize, so we can confirm that Romans ate cornmeal.